Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a
And
gamer.
I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at Bonsai by DV Games.
Bonsai is a card drafting, tile laying game. Mechanics that we really enjoy if you've watched any of our videos. But the theme with this one is that you are growing and cultivating a bonsai tree. And it looks really cool and unique out on the table when you're done with this game. Let me go down to the table and show you how this one works, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. Alright, I have Bonsai on the table. Let me show you how this card drafting tile laying game about cultivating a bonsai tree works. Now with this game, you're going to have a central board, you're going to have cards, you're going to have your own pot to which you will be growing your bonsai tree in. You'll have a little player board here, some player aid cards, and lots of tiles. Now the tiles in this game, you're going to have wood tiles, leaf tiles, flower tiles, and fruit tiles. And each of these tiles are going to have their own rules about placement, and we'll go over that here in just a second. Now, as part of setup, determining how many, depending on how many players you have in the game, will determine how many cards you have in this deck. You'll have a 2-player deck, and then you'll have extra cards that you're going to add in for 3 or 4 players. I'm going to set those off to the side. You're also going to select 3 of these different colored sets of in-the-game goal tiles that you'll be working towards, and there's several for you to choose from, so this definitely adds replayability. But to give you an idea as to what some of these are, you have a number of fruit tiles that you need to play in order to gain a certain number of points. You need to extend your tree beyond a certain side of your pot or to go below your pot, and we'll kind of show you how that works here in just a minute. Here's another example, a number of flowers all on one side of the pot, a number of leaf tiles, and a number of wood tiles. Now, there is a catch here with these in-the-game goal tiles. You can see here that you need to have 8 of these, and you can claim this tile to get 5 points. Now, the rule is that on the turn that you place the 8th wood tile, or if maybe you played more than one and you went over 8, you then have to decide whether you want to claim this tile right then and there. Now, if you do claim it, you cannot claim one of these other ones, such as having 10 or having 12. You can only claim one of each color from that set. So you have to decide right then and there if you're going to take this one for 5 points or if you're going to press on and try to get one of the bigger point ones. Now, if you do to say, no, I'm not going to get that one, but then you never get to one of these other ones or somebody gets it before you do, because these are first come, first serve, you can't go back on a later turn and say, you know what, yeah, I am going to take this one. If you pass it up, it's gone. So that's how these in-the-game tiles work. But now that you understand that, let's talk about how this game works. Now, on your turn, you are going to be taking one of 2 actions. You are either going to be meditating, which is drafting a card here from the board, or you're going to be cultivating, which is playing tiles that you have collected and cultivating your tree. Because in this game, you are making a bonsai tree. You're growing a bonsai tree. So let's cover those 2 actions, the first being meditating. Now with that, you're simply going to take one of the 4 cards that are available to you here in the market, and whatever you end up taking, you'll take that card plus any bonus tiles that may be underneath that card. So in other words, if I take this card right here, not only do I get the card, but I get the tiles that are printed here below the board, which is a leaf tile and a fruit tile, taking it from the supply. And I would just take those tiles and place them somewhere down below here off to the side, because they're not going to go into my tree just yet. Now this particular card, it's not going to give me anything immediately. This is a growth card. It's just going to show a different type of tile up here in the top left. Now I've got 2 examples here. We've got a flower and we've got a fruit. Now both of these work the same way in that I just simply place it here to the right side of my board, and once I get multiple ones, they're going to overlap here, showing the different tiles up in the top left. And as you can see here, we've already got some that are printed on the main board, my main player board. What these tiles indicate are the types of tiles and the number of those tiles that I can play into my tree when I take the second type of action, which is the cultivate action. And we'll come back to that here in just a second. Just know that I am limited to these tiles, these exact tiles, when I take the cultivate action. So I'm going to put these cards back here and show you another type of card. Now this is a tool card, and it's got a +2 on it, and it's going to go to the left side of my board. And as soon as I get another one of these, again, it's just going to overlap, just like how these cards overlap. You can see that there is a 5 printed here on my board, and that means I can have a maximum of 5 tiles. If I take any more than that, I have to discard down to 5. This number right here increases that by 2, so now I can take 7 tiles if I take this card, and if I take another tool card later on in the game, that would add 2 more. You get the idea. This is a master card. Master cards are just going to give me more tiles, exactly like how these spaces down here are, and you can see that because it's got a white arrow pointing towards you, plus the pink background matches the pink background underneath the boards here. Another example is going to be a helper card. This card is going to immediately let you take a cultivate action, which we'll explain that here in just a second, with these specific tiles. You do have to have these tiles down here that you've already collected. You don't take these from the supply. And while we're looking at this card, this is any type of tile. As you can see, it has the 4 different types of tiles printed there in that hexagon space. And here's another example of a card. This is a parchment card, and you're going to just take these cards that you get, these master, helper, and parchment cards, and you're going to keep them in a face-down pile off to the side. Because these cards could play into scoring later on in the game, such as this parchment card here. It's going to give you 2 points for every growth card that you have collected at the end of the game. So this will develop a strategy for what you might be wanting to do throughout the course of the game. Now, whenever you draft a card taking your meditate action, it will refill from the deck like so, and it would be the next player's turn, and that's all your turn is doing, is just taking this one of these cards and gaining tiles down here. Now, the second type of action you could do is the cultivate action, and that is going to be where you take the tiles that you have gained and make your tree. So let's bring out the tiles here and show you what this might look like. So again, the tiles have some placement rules. The wood tiles have to touch other wood tiles, and your main board here with your pot does start with 1 wood tile already on it. And for purposes of these goals that I talked to you earlier about having wood tiles, the wood tile already on your board does count towards your 8 or 10 or 12 that you need. So wood has to touch wood, and you can make your tree kind of go off in whatever direction you want. You can have it spread out wide, you can have it go tall, you get the idea. Leaf tiles have to touch wood on one side, and you can see that kind of printed here on one of the sides of the hexagon. So you could put it like this, you could put it like that, you get the idea. And obviously you can have leaves touching each other like so, but you cannot have a leaf on top of a leaf without touching wood. So it's got to be like that. Your flower tiles need to touch leaves on one side, at least one side. It can touch on multiple sides, but you're encouraged not to do that because flowers are going to give you 1 point for each open side that it has at the end of the game. So you really want these flowers to be off like that, where they're open on all 5 of the sides, because 5 is the maximum points you can get for a flower. Now, fruit, they're going to need to have leaves on 2 sides of it in order to be placed, so like so. And fruits are going to get you 7 points apiece. So they're your big money makers, but they take up a lot of space in your tree, and they're kind of hard to get because you need a lot going into it before you can place a fruit. Now again, you are limited to the tiles that are shown here on your board. So in other words, I can only, at the beginning of the game, the only tiles I could place are a leaf, a wood, and then 1 of any kind. And that's why you need these growth tiles to be able to play other types of tiles. Now, the game is going to continue. Again, players are going to be claiming goals as they meet them if they want to, but the game is going to come to an end when this deck runs out, and then you will be playing with whatever's left in the market, and once there are no more cards left available to you, then that's going to be when the game is going to end. You will get 3 points for every leaf that you have in your tree. You'll get 1 point again for your flowers that have open sides to them. And you'll get 7 points for your fruits. Then you will give yourself points for any of the parchment cards that you have collected throughout the course of the game, and points for your in-game goals that you've accomplished and taken. Whoever has the most points is going to be the winner, and that's how you play Bonsai. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Bonsai from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So Sam, first thing I want to ask you about this one is the table presence, the artwork, the just the look of this one out on the table, because for me, that's something that really catches my attention, and it's one of the things that I feel like I want to address right off the top. So what for you was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's you're building which is already a bonsai is a very pretty plant.
I mean, we had one and it died really quickly. That one was not pretty, but
it's our first anniversary, Lance got me one, dating anniversary, and I killed it. It was supposed to be a symbol of our relationship.
It died fast. But ones that are living are really
yes, they're
really
very pretty. And they're very unique trees because of the directions in which they grow. So I thought this game, we actually saw it at PAX Unplugged.
Yes.
And we played it there for the first time.
Well, that was the first time for you. My first time was at BGG Con, and so that was my first experience with Sam. Was her first experience, second experience for me. And obviously now we have a copy of it, so you're probably getting an insight into the direction we're headed on this.
Yeah, so I mean, just seeing you at PAX, a lot of times you'll see a lot of the games set out, and that kind of catches your attention before anything else, because you're not just seeing the box, you're actually seeing it out on the table. And this immediately looked, and it was one of those that we had to keep waiting to play because people were always at the table. So I don't think we played it till our last day there. And it's just a very pretty game. The fact that it was always busy at that table showed us something as well. And it's a chill game. You know, you're not like, there's not yelling, screaming, you know, like there could be in some games. It's just a very zen game.
Well, and it goes along with the theme, but I think that the mechanics and the gameplay experience produces that out of the theme, if that makes sense. So I'll agree with you 100%. And I think just the tiles, the way they're looked, you know, these hexagon tiles, it almost looks a little bit like 8-bit graphic, you know, like old school video game.
Which I didn't really notice that until I'm looking at the box right here on the back, and it does look like that.
But it works with that bonsai look of the tree, you know, like it just has these harsh edges. Bonsai trees can sort of be like that a little bit. So I think that graphic design and the way they made it look out on the table is really cool, really unique. Now let's talk about the actual gameplay experience, because a game can look all, you know, great and be crap, right? So what was the gameplay experience like here for you?
I thought it was great. We played it last night, and I think the first time we played, I don't know if I realized that the scoring, the tiles that were out there changed.
Oh, you're talking about that. There's multiple sets of in the game goals that you can try to accomplish.
Goals. And so
there's multiple sets.
When we set it up last night, I was like, "This is different," and Lance was like, "Yeah, the goals changed." And I was like, "Well, that's nice. It changes up the gameplay, and I think it just gives it more playability." And they're so unique the way that they are. There's some that you need to have this many pieces of tree bark, and sometimes you need to have flowers, but only on the left side or only on the right side. And then you get points with how many spaces you have around your flower. So you don't want it right up next to another flower, another fruit. A fruit has to be between two leaves. A leaf has to be connected to a wood. And it sounds like that's a lot of rules. It makes sense, though. The little pieces kind of show you where they go. So it's not one of those where you're constantly like, what? I don't understand. Some of the cards I had to ask a couple times. But that might just be me.
The player aid definitely helps out with the tiles. I wish there was more room on the player aid that pointed out what exactly the iconography on the cards do.
Because I kept having to ask, like, wait, does this one mean I can play those, or am I just getting them? So as a non-gamer, that's always one of my hardest things. I don't remember things like that. I don't care to remember. Except
well, even as a gamer, I did, even the second and third time of playing this game, I did have to go back and reference the rule book just to remind myself, okay, what does the old man, what does he do for you? What does the younger guy do for you? Like, I had to go back and remind myself.
And the cards are rolling, and so depending on where they are in the line, you get other benefits from them. So if you get the first one, you're not going to get any benefits, but it may be a highly desired card. And there's also cards that'll give you points for having multiples of other types of cards. Yeah. And so it is a little bit of a point salad at the end. There are stuff that you can kind of keep from your partner or from the people that you're playing with. You can obviously both see each other's trees very well, and you see those nine goals that you're both going for, and you have to get them as you meet that goal.
Right.
But the cards, I think, add a little bit of, you're not really sure who's going to win.
Yes. Yeah. It does add a little spiciness to the end game because, again, you're remembering what everybody's drafting, or you're really just focused on your own tree and what you've already drafted. You don't know what other people, unless you just have a good memory, you don't know what everybody has.
Last night, you won.
I won last night, but you have definitely beaten me in this game.
But it was barely, and I had beat him until the cards came out.
Yes. Yeah.
And then he had more cards with extra points that ended up winning him the game. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to pros and cons for this one. Sam, what for you as a non-gamer really stands out in a positive way?
It's just a really pretty game. It's a fairly quick game too, and you just see it developing. I think at some point you're like, I'm not done making my tree, and so I think it's a really nice, chill game to play with a non-gamer. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to go ahead and go into my cons because I think the only con to it is the iconography on the cards. Everything else is self-explanatory, and as you play, everything else becomes more clear, but I just wish the icons were just slightly more clear on the cards because that's the one part where I was asking for clarification.
And I think really, it's to be specific, it's the cards that have this guy on them, the old man, and the cards that have this young guy with the hat. I mean, those are just, to me, the iconography is so similar that it's hard to differentiate until you've played the game a few times.
Yeah, and I just couldn't ever remember. And there's the one with the wheelbarrow, and I couldn't remember. Is that the one where I get to play, or do you just
that's the one
on your own?
Increases how many tiles you can hold. So my pros for this game are that the turns are pretty snappy with this one. It almost feels like the game is over before you know it. But it's not. The game is 40 minutes, and I think that's that's what it says on the box, and I think that's accurate. But it almost feels like, oh man, it's my turn again. Gosh, I just went, right? And that's not even just in a two-player game. That happens in higher player counts too. So turns are really snappy, and you do feel like you can build up to have big turns in this game because you got this stockpile of tiles. And you know that the flowers give you so many points if you keep them separate from everything else, and the fruits give you 7 points. And if you got, if you're battling for one of those goals out there, that can be a huge stockpile of points right there. So it really kind of feels like you can make a lot happen on your turns, and that's exciting. That produces an excitement out of me whenever I've got, these are the perfect tiles, boom, 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 bam, and give me that one right there. Like, so it sort of feels like you're building up for these big turns in this game. Yeah. And I like that.
I like it better than just playing, you only play 2 at a time. And it just takes so long to get that goal. Like, you really do get to see it develop quickly.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that. Now, my con for this one, it's going to sound a bit odd, I suppose, is, you mentioned that you're building this pretty tree and you don't feel like it's complete, but it is what it is, or you said something along those lines. And I've felt like this every time I've played this game. I walk away thinking, man, that tree is not how I want it to
I could have done better.
I could have done better. I walk away thinking, that part looks good, but this part over here, it doesn't look complete.
Well, I think you are limited by the number that you can play, and not only that, but you're limited by the types that you can play by your card. They'll say you can play 2 wood or 2. So I might be like, well, I can only play 2 wood. I'm going to have to add leaves, but that stops the growth essentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you do have to change your plan depending on what's on those cards.
So I guess what my con is with it is that, it is a restrictive tile laying game, and not that the restrictive part is the problem. I think it's that finding a way to get to where you need the right cards to play the right tiles to get towards the right points is a bit of a too lengthy process for how short the game is.
Yeah.
Because in order for me to be able to play so many wood tiles, so many leaf tiles, to play the flower tiles, to play the orange fruit tile, I got to get the right cards. But by the time I get the right cards, either I haven't gotten the tiles or the game's almost over, because I did tiles and cards, and now boom, the game's almost over, right?
Hey guys, Future Lance here. Wanted to pause the video and let you know that there's an actual variant in the rulebook called the Tokonoma variant that addresses this very issue that I'm talking about here. It lets you rig the deck in such a way that a lot of the cards that will help you to develop a strategy earlier in the game are going to be at the top part of the deck. So let's get back to the video, but I did want to let you know about this variant.
I do feel like it is a game that the more you play, the better you get at it, because I do feel like I did much better the second time just because I've played it before. And so you get to stop focusing so much on the layout and more on the strategy of it, and kind of get better as that goes along. Yeah, I will agree with that for sure. You can sort of figure out that problem that I'm describing a little bit better each time you play the game. And I think that's maybe that's the puzzly part of the game, what I'm describing. And I like that. I don't know if everybody would like that. I think there's some people out there that might feel like the game just ends too quickly and I didn't get to do what I wanted to do. So, all right, let's get to our scores for this one. 1 to 10, love to hate. Where does Bonsai come in at for you? And this game actually made both me and Lance's honorable mentions on our top 10. I think we both said it was like our number 11. It almost made it in our top 10. And for me, I think I just hadn't played it enough to be able to rank it higher. But it's a great game. I'd probably give it a 7.7. Okay, all right. Again, like Sam said, this is an honorable mention of 2023 for me. It's got mechanics that I really enjoy, love the theme, love the look, and it does produce that kind of zen-like, relaxing feeling for me. And obviously, we've liked it enough that we wanted a copy for ourselves. I was going to say 7.7 as well. So Sam and I are coming in right in the same spot. And I think this is a game that is a perfect light to medium weight tile laying game that are going to really connect with a lot of people, right? Like this is, we got our copy at Barnes & Noble, and if this makes sense, I think this is the perfect Barnes & Noble type game, right? Like the person who's like, I play games, but maybe they don't play big, heavy games. This is going to be kind of your game. We're a non-gamer shop for games. Well, maybe you're casual to, just really getting a good groove into the hobby, let's say. I think this is that perfect kind of game for that area. So anyhow, the game is Bonsai from DV Games. Leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about this one. Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content. I'm Lance. I'm Sam. And we are Love to Hate, where we bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.